Well, welcome back, First You listeners, to the first pour that we've been doing every Wednesday here at the church with various pastors. And so today, Eric was talking to us, and he's like, "Hey, you guys are both really passionate about worship, have been worship pastors previous and present worship pastors, and so you can talk about this topic of what is worship." And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get into that, we did want to just share we've got some swag on today, some Firsty swag.
We do got some swag on. Stay Firsty.
Yeah, so you can check these out. I think in 2 weeks we've got our fair.
First family fair.
First family fair. All of the F's. And so you can, if you sign up to serve, you will get one of these for free. And so that's just our incentive to help us out. But they'll also be available after that, I think. I don't know if that's a secret or not, but spoiler alert, they'll be available afterwards too if you'd like to buy one and you don't choose to serve. But looking good. I think Pastor Blaine designed these.
Yeah. Did a good job.
Pretty good. But yeah, so, Eric's like, "Hey, you guys just have at it today and talk about the softball question of what is worship."
Yeah.
So figured, Aaron, I'd throw that your direction.
It's
get us rolling on.
This easily becomes like one of my big soapboxes.
Yeah,
so,
I thought about bringing a box in for you to stand on.
Oh, why didn't you?
But
feel free to like draw me back to reality if I get too far out there. But
sounds good.
Yeah. So what is worship? I like the way that Evelyn Underhill puts it. She's a Christian mystic from I think the 20th century. She says that worship in all its grades and kinds is the response of the creature to the eternal. Put in plain terms, it's a response of finite mortal beings to God. And for me, that goes all the way back to creation. God spun the universe into being. He created human beings like you and me in his image. He created the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, the animals of the land, and plants and stuff too. But birds, everything's in its place. God created everything with a purpose, and so as creation kind of does its thing, it's just, in effect, responding to the fact that God made it. And so ever since creation, people and all of creation has been responding to God making it. So living out that image that God has instilled in all of those things in its perfect sense. So
yeah, that's good. I think I don't remember I heard this, so it may or may not be true, but it sounded good. But the idea that like the word worship, one, it's not strictly in the Greek or Hebrew. There's not a word for worship. It's other words that we translate as worship, which is an English word meaning to ascribe worth to something. So it's like giving worth. So giving our worth, ascribing worth to the one who is worthy, which is ultimately God, and that's what worship is.
Yeah.
But these can be kind of complicated, lots of big words. So Aaron, if a small tiny human being came up to you and said, "Pastor Aaron, what is worship?" What would you say to that child?
Yeah. I like your second definition that you gave there too, of ascribing ultimate like worth or glory or weight to God. And so tying these two things together, I guess you could say that since God created us with a purpose, you could say maybe that God loves us. And God is so big and so powerful and so not the best term, but important, that we just can't help but in turn respond by loving God back. Because if God is the most important thing, then he may be the most important love that we have the chance to express. Maybe like that.
Cool. And so that's a life of worship. Back towards God. So. Yeah. That's good. That's good stuff. Well, we're both also very passionate about discipleship and, our mission to help people follow Jesus, our vision to take 5,000 steps, next steps of a discipleship by 2025. So, one of the questions that I'd be curious for us to kind of flesh out, what is the relationship of worship to a life of discipleship?
Well, you're constantly being formed into something, I would say. that's why we do discipleship with each other, is we try to draw people. It's our mission here at First Christian Church, is to help each other follow Jesus. And as we spend time with each other, as we dive into the Word together, we're being hopefully constantly formed into more closely into the image of Jesus, right? And so, I mean, I would say that worship ties into discipleship, in that what you worship and what you ascribe ultimate worth and glory and weight to, ultimately is like what you become. So, I mean, which is why...
That's deep.
Yeah, which is why it's... this is something that I think we can distinguish here, is like there's a difference between creator worship and creation worship. And so there's this guy, this farmer by the name of Joel Salatin, and that's his big deal, you know. He separates himself from like pantheists, or basically creation worshipers, by saying like, I only farm because God created it, and I'm trying to do my best to steward it. So I'm worshiping God through my acts. And so it's not just with farming. I mean, it also plays into things like we're not worshiping the earth or animals or any celebrity or even QuickBooks Pro. Like, we are worshiping
QuickBooks. That's the first thing that came to mind.
I don't know. You know, like we're not worshiping these created things, these systems. We're worshiping the one who provided the system in which it works, the Creator. So, I mean, ultimately, what we worship is what we are becoming. So, you know, if we worship our job, we're maybe more inwardly focused on ourselves than we are the one who created us and has an intention for our lives.
That's good.
So
there's a philosopher, Jamie Smith. He says that you are what you love, and the idea of, you know, whatever we love, we will become. And so when we love the things of the world for their own sake, we start being deformed out of the image of God. But when we ascribe that worth back to God, when we worship God, when we love God, we're actually being remade back into His image, which I think is the invitation of discipleship, what we all want to be about. So, yeah, well, you know, softball question today: what is worship? I'm sure we'll come back sometime and talk about, you know, why do we sing and other aspects that are oftentimes, you know, put into the conversation on worship. But we'll kind of look forward to that. So, yeah. With that, we'll sign off. We'll see you next week on The First Pour.
See you guys.